Katie Ledecky's performance in the 800-meter freestyle at the 2016 Olympic Games. In 2012, at 15 years old, Katie Ledecky surprised the world by winning gold in the 800 freestyle. Over the next 4 years, Ledecky quickly established her dominance, becoming one of the greatest distance swimmers of all time. In January of 2016, she put the world on notice when she broke the world record at the Austin Pro Swim Series in the 800-meter freestyle, swimming an 8:06.63. At that point, only one swimmer had even been within 10 seconds of that time. Coming into the 2016 Olympic Games, Katie Ledecky owned the 11 fastest performances of all time in the 800-meter freestyle. Now, the dive is such a small part of the 800-meter freestyle race, but I do think it's important to note that her average reaction time range is 0.66 to 0.72. She's not really all that far off what the best mid-distance swimmers in the world are doing on their dives, and she's not even really all that far off of what some of the best sprinters in the world are doing off their dive in terms of reaction time. Now, when we look at the average stroke count for swimmers in the 800 free, we see a lot of the best female distance swimmers are right around 44 strokes per 50. I mean, plus or minus a couple of strokes, but 44 tends to be the number that most of the best female elite distance swimmers are doing in the 800-meter freestyle. And we can see Katie Ledecky's stroke counts right here, and I think one of the big things to note is obviously she's taking much less than 44 strokes per 50, but the most important part of her stroke count is her consistency across 800 meters. And, you know, when we like to talk about stroke count, we should also be talking about distance per stroke. And you look at her 50s, in the distance she travels each stroke. In her middle 700, really, she's making sure she's maintaining at least 1.1 meters per stroke. Now, her second 50 and her last 50 were the only strokes where she averaged less than 1.1 meters per stroke. Now, Katie Ledecky uses an up-tempo style of distance swimming, and this has been around for a couple of decades. We see former great distance swimmers using a little bit more of an up-tempo style of distance swimming, but we don't see it pervasive across the sport. But after Ledecky kind of shocked the world in the 2012 Olympic Games and rose to dominance with her high-tempo style of distance swimming, we started seeing more and more swimmers adopt this into their distance swimming events. And by the 2016 Olympic trials, we see that the average tempo rate for elite female distance swimmers in the 800-meter freestyle is about 1.4 seconds per cycle. And, you know, here's Katie Ledecky's tempo averages per each 50. You know, we can see that she's well under, or not well under, but she's just under 1.4 per cycle. But when you think about in a distance race, I mean, for example, in this race, she took 320 and a half cycles in this race. And so even if it's only, you know, 5/100ths of a second under the average or what her competitors are doing, that's going to add up to a lot of time in 300 plus cycles. She's very fast through her turns. You know, she's only 0.9, less than a second from the finish of her last arm pull until her feet are leaving the wall, which is, you know, again, in a race that has 15 turns, you want to make sure that you are not spending a lot of time on those turns. And she also spends about 2 to 2.5 seconds underwater, but the big thing is she uses one dolphin kick off of each wall, which is usually getting her breakout to about 7 meters. And when you look at the rest of the field, most of them are breaking out 5 meters or even a little bit shorter as the race goes on. Ledecky's finish is incredible. You can see from 10 meters out, she puts her head down, picks her tempo up, and powers home to the wall. I mean, at the end of an 800-meter race, she's not breathing inside of her last 10 meters. And we know she's a great distance swimmer. She kind of blows the field away. She wins this race by, I think, 14 seconds. And we can look at her splits here by 50. You know, and here's the breakdown by 100, and then we can look at the breakdown by 200, and you'll notice she swam a very consistent race, splitting it very, very consistently across 50s, across hundreds, across 200s, you know, and that's part of her excellence. But what we like to look at in races that are 800 meters or longer is seeing if we can get close to an even or a negative split in a race. And so, you know, I wanted to look at her 400s. You know, we can see that she is less than 1 second fade between her first 400 and her second 400. And most of the rest of the field split somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds. These, I mean, really under 2 seconds, the 800 meter race is going to be pretty close to an even split. Leah Smith, American, who finished 6th, did have a 0.6 split, 0.6 second fade between her first 100 or first 400 and her second 400, which is pretty incredible. One of the biggest things we can take away is that Ledecky gets her consistency in her racing from her consistency in her training. She trains incredibly hard, day in and day out, but she also trains for specificity. She trains to learn how to manage her energy in the front half of her swims so that she can close incredibly well